We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We have Mela, Marla, Pink, Julie absent. On item 1.3, the adoption of the board agenda. In that motion, if we could move item 5 items up before item 4. Right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. All of us. Anybody here to address us for items of closed session? Seeing none, we'll adjourn to closed session. Good evening. Welcome to the Roseville Joint Union High School District Board meeting for May 11th. You all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Prior to open session, the board met in closed session. And on a vote of 4-0, motion was by Marla, seconded by Heidi. The board voted to ratify a settlement agreement for Oakmont High School student case number 20230207111. And that vote was 4-0 with one absent. Announcement of meeting protocols. As you know, there are opportunities for the public to provide input to the board. There's two opportunities, one under open forum. That's for any issues that you would like to speak on that are not on our agenda. I have just a few. If we have less than 10, each person will be afforded 3 minutes to address the board. If we have 10 or more, that time will be reduced to 90 seconds. You'll also have an opportunity to address the board on each agenda item, and the same time limits will apply. Remind you that the board encourages and requests civility in the use of courteous language. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant and or district employee. If you have a complaint about a specific employee or employees of the district, that complaint should be made to the employee's immediate supervisor or the school site principal as outlined in our board policy and administrative regulations. If you have not filled out the card and want to speak, be sure to do so. We did have a change in our agenda that was voted on prior to adjourning to closed session, and that is that we are going to hear the number 5 items prior to the number 4 items. So with that, we're going to start with item 5.1, recognition of the 2022-2023 student board representatives. And I'm going to ask the board to join us when we give the plaques from the stage. John? All right, so from Antelope High School, we have Felina Nguyen. From Granite Bay High School, we have Alex Izadeh. Oakmont High School, we have George Buljan. From Pathways, we have Kate Benevento. From Roseville High School, we have Autumn Ostrom. From West Park High School, we have Kamea Coloma Forbes. And saving the hardest name for last, from Woods Creek High School, we have Saba Orbanazadeh. Get it? All right, almost. make sure that on behalf of the board, all of you student board members to know how much we appreciate you and the input, the assistance that you've provided us. Every single time we have a policy issue that we're debating or discussing, when each of you engage, it has been very enlightening. I'm always amazed at how deeply you've thought about these issues, how much consideration you've given each of those issues, and how much you've helped shape the direction of this board. So I really appreciate you. I know you're going to do wonderful things in college and career and life. Go out there and knock them dead. You guys are great. We really appreciate it. Let's give one more round of applause. Charter school presentation from John Adams Academy.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Voss. I'm the district's liaison to the charter schools, and I'm happy to introduce John Adams Academy to give a yearly update. Just a little bit, real quick. Their charter would have been up for renewal next year, but because of COVID, the state extended it 2 more years, so it'll be a couple years before we get rolling on that. But they wanted to give you an update, and just kind of a lot of you are new, so I'd like to introduce Tim Sprinkles. He is the headmaster at John Adams.
Thank you, Lisa. Distinguished members of the board, Superintendent Becker, assistant superintendents, thank you so much for letting me be present tonight. I am a new face here. I am a little taller than the last person. How's that? It is my pleasure to present tonight. Here at John Adams Academy, we have a wonderful relationship. We feel Lisa Voss has been incredible this year. We have wonderful communication. Dr. Moore came out earlier this year, and I was able to give her a tour of our campus. We just love the relationship that we have. So I'm going to respect everyone's time tonight. I know there's a lot of slides, but I'm going to kind of power through this. Please look through it at your own leisure. Feel free to ask any questions at any time, and you can come out for a tour. We'd love to help you out. Dr. Henke, our superintendent, had a family emergency just took place, so I'm going to be kind of running the entire presentation. John Adams Academy, we're located just about 10 minutes down the road. At John Adams Academy, we are restoring America's heritage by developing servant leaders. That is our vision and our mission of our school, and it is something that our entire organization believes in, and we're all driven behind this mission. But underneath that, you can see our 10 core values. This is how we live everything in our day-to-day operations. We live through these core values and how our interactions are with our parents, our community, our families, and our staff, especially when the hard conversations happen. Okay? At John Adams Academy, we believe we are giving an American classical leadership education, and you can see that that's rooted in our liberty, our 4 pillars of education. We have our core values and our art of mentoring are on the outside. That's what's holding up our foundation of our school. Our teachers, we don't call them teachers, we call them mentors. We're guiding our scholars through the classics, becoming liberal artists, developing servant leaders, as you can see there at the top, in pursuit of virtue, wisdom, and truth. Our leadership has changed. Like I mentioned, I am now the headmaster of just Roseville. Previously, Heather Brown was a headmaster of all elementary. Dr. Henke was headmaster of all secondary. We've kind of reorganized our structure so that I oversee the TK through 12 program in its entirety. Underneath me on site, I have 2 deans, which act as principals of elementary and secondary. They have 2 assistant deans under them. So we have a lot of leadership on site, but we also have great support from our NSD, or Nonprofit Services Division. You can see we have our executive director, superintendent, deputy superintendents. And what I'm most proud of is the fact that we have directors of special education and academic services to provide our schools with as much support as necessary to make sure that we can serve all of our scholars to the best of our ability. Our current enrollment is about 1,557. This has grown roughly about 100 each year. 2021, we were at 1,368. We've moved up. We've developed an online program as well. It's a small presence, but we wanted to make sure that we did it with integrity and we did it right to start, so we didn't expand. And obviously, being a charter school, we want to stay below that 20% mark for our scholars, ADA being independent study. Our attendance has been strong. We obviously are still dealing with the ramifications of the pandemic and a couple of years post, but we're holding strong at just about 94% for our elementary and secondary. We work very hard as an admin team and our counselors to make sure that our scholars make it to school and they're in seat and learning. One of the unique things that we've started this year is what we call a pulse meeting. This is a proactive understanding and learning of our scholar experiences. This is our administration, our counselors, our school psychologists, our safety team, our school nurse. Everybody gets together once a month and we talk about our kids on campus. We don't let any of our kids fall through the cracks. We want to make sure that we're servicing all of them. If they're not showing up to school, we want to know why. Our behavior interventions and supports, as I said, you can peruse through all of this data and there's a lot here. I just kind of want to highlight our 10 core values, and then at Roseville, we've partnered with the Flipping Group in Capturing Kids' Hearts, and we believe in bringing in something which we call classroom constitutions. It's basically having our scholars talk about our 10 core values in a post-language room, because they're going to have an agreement of behavior and how they're going to operate. Each class is unique, each group is different. We want to honor that, but we still need to model through what we believe in. Our counseling supports, obviously our counselors push into classrooms, they teach lessons, they run small group opportunities, and they have one-on-one counseling as well. We have 3 counselors on site, 1 for elementary, 1 for middle school, and 1 for high school. We're very proud of how we're moving our English language learners through our program. I just want to highlight the fact that we have 159 this year English language learners, and right now we have 78 that have been reclassified. We're monitoring them closely. As you can see, we have a number of different languages on campus, but we have ELD supports both in our elementary and high school programs, and we're providing services for all of them. Our special education and 504 program, it continues to grow, but we're doing it with fidelity and integrity. We have a wonderful special education director, staff on site. As you can see that we have roughly about 130 kids on campus that have IEPs. In the last 2 years, we now have 15 scholars in our STC program, both elementary and secondary. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of data and going through it, but what I do want to highlight here is the fact that on these graphs, we're trying to move into the blue. That's our tier 1. Those are the kids who are reading, either at reading or math levels at grade level or above. And as you see, we progress through our school years. Our blue is rising, and we're moving our kids out of our tier 3, either into our tier 2, just below grade level or above. And all of these graphs, you can see that it doesn't matter when we're testing our kids or what year it is, we progress in that direction. But please take note, we were affected by the pandemic just like everybody else. One of the unique things that we've done, though, is now we're testing our kids, our secondary, with MAP testing under the recommendation of Roseville Joint Union. Instead of moving away from iReady, we feel that this gives us a much more accurate reflection of where our kids are in the secondary level. We're very proud of our PSAT data, where we are in regards to our scholars as they progress. We're trying to meet the benchmark or state average every year, and we're meeting that as well. So iReady for our elementary, MAP testing for our secondary, and PSAT data, and there are internal diagnostic data that we measure to see. So our summer programming, we're working very hard to make sure that we support our scholars who have fallen behind, who need academic services. We want to fill those gaps, so we do offer credit recovery, and we are in compliance with our extended learning opportunities ELOP programming, offering before, after school, and summer programming. Our counseling services, like I stated earlier, we have 3, elementary, middle, and high school. We are roughly targeting around 400 referrals a year. These could be behavioral or academic, but our counselors are constantly working as hard as they possibly can to be in touch with our teachers, our staff, our administration, and attending as many professional development as they possibly can to stay up to date with our kids. And we offer, it's not just academic and it's not just social emotional support we offer. We're also hosting college fairs. We're taking college visits. We just recently got back from taking a group of our scholars down to Thomas Aquinas College. They were able to sit in on classes. Their professors are called tutors. They got to speak with the students, the tutors, and really experience what their school life is really all about. So they spent 3 days down in that area experiencing college, and it's not many different colleges, but that was one of them to highlight. These are our college acceptance over since 2017 to 23. The list continues to grow. We're not just sending kids to local colleges, we're sending them to out-of-state private. We're sending them to our United States military academies as well. We were hoping to add Harvard to this, but unfortunately, he was not accepted to Harvard. We found that out 2 days ago, but he's attending LSU. I couldn't make the change to the slide. I'm just going to represent John Adams Academy on their swim team, and he's going to be becoming a Tiger at LSU, so we're happy to see that as well. Our school facilities, it's very difficult, as you can imagine, to occupy a business space, business structure, but we now occupy 6 buildings, roughly 150,000 square feet. We meet all ADA guidelines, and we're doing everything we possibly can to make it feel like a school. We continuously have updates, and we're making sure that our campus is safe, appropriate for all. So we have our safety drills, our entire staff up to date in regards to all fire drills, earthquake drills, lockdown. We're using language that doesn't scare the kids, but develops muscle memory and a good culture so that if an event, anything did happen, we're able to keep everybody safe. Our human resources department is kind of restructured recently, but we make sure that all of our staff has the appropriate training. Most of that's done online. Occasionally it's done in person, but we need environments there as well. Our communication engagement with our families is done via Parent Square, Google Classroom, or Canvas. We want to make sure that all of our communication is done in a very safe and secure manner, but we truly believe in making sure that we over-communicate with our parents and our community members to make sure that there's no confusion whatsoever. In regards to other outreach programs that we have, we host community events. Recently, we just hosted the Rev Run, where we had right about 500 community members participate in the 5K run and the 10K run. And tonight, I actually just ran over from our Heritage Fair, where we had roughly about 1,000 people on campus celebrating the wonderful things that we do. Our classrooms come to life, we bring our curriculum to life, obviously educating through the classics. So we got to experience wonderful books like Charlotte's Web, Little Red Hen, things like that on an elementary level, and it's just, I just love it. Our budget is actually one of the strongest things that we have here at John Adams Academy. Last year, we went through our full 6-year cycle with WASC, receiving another accreditation, but one of their highlights was your budget is one of the strongest things you have. There's a lot of good, a lot of positive, but budgetarily, John Adams Academy Roseville is very sound. And I want to leave you with this before if there's any questions available. Our kids are doing amazing things on a daily basis. We absolutely love what we do at John Adams Academy. We love our community. We love the partnership we have here with Roseville Joint Union. And our kids are making a difference, whether it be in the classroom, out on the field, in an athletic competition, or whether they travel to any local school or community in the area. Our athletics program has 5 academic section championships within the last couple of years. I believe this is the most of any program in the CIF Sac Joaquin section. So we are leading scholar athletes, but we are scholars first, and our league titles come second, which they do. So, any questions from our board or administration?
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
You have a crazy long wait list. What are your numbers look like?
We currently, obviously, we do have 1,557 enrolled. And would you like to know Roseville's wait list or all 3 academies' wait list?
All
4,500 on a wait list for all 3 campuses, and roughly about just under 2,000 folks. Yeah.
I essentially have the same questions. I was going to piggyback.
Yes.
Is it purely an issue of space? Like, in order to accommodate some of that wait list, is it staff? Is it space? Is it all
Yes.
of the above? Okay.
It's all of the above. So in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, I started out as a parent of 2 scholars of the new campus in Lincoln. We searched high and low for a great school, and they started with portables, and we could even see the stretch that it took from the Roseville campus to support that growth. Recently, we've been expanding as much as we possibly can, but there is a lack of highly qualified teachers out there, and we are maxing out our space. So we're doing everything we possibly can to maximize every square inch on our campus to serve our kids. Yeah, so it's a combination of all.
impressed with their slideshow.
Thank you. There's a lot of information on there. So again, feel free to peruse it at your leisure, and happy to answer any questions you guys have at any time. If anybody would like a tour of campus, we're always welcome to the community to come out and experience what we have. Dr. Moore, I know that it was random that you were presented with a rose and a kid in a tux. I swear that was not staged in any way. It was our prep for Virtu's choir, who's nationally recognized, and it was just a dress rehearsal. But that is who we are at John Adams Academy. We welcome
The opportunity to have interactions with a number of our students. I've been impressed with every single one. We've got some great students. Thank you for all you do for our students.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to go back to the number 4 items. Start off with board reports. Got a few things to report. First, I want to apologize to Nick Rick. Last month, I didn't even mention that we went to your wonderful opening of our new entryway art history show. I don't know how it slipped my mind, but that was incredibly impressive. I learned a lot about our city there. I learned a lot about our school district there. And the way you put that together, well, I know you did. The way the folks at your school put it together, the parents and the volunteers, they just did an incredible job. So if you haven't been out to Roseville to see that, I encourage you to do so. It's an incredible installation. Since the last meeting, I've made it out a few places. I went to the GSA Summit at Antelope High School with our superintendent. I went to the Student Leadership Conference at William Jessup, where I work. We had our students and staff attend that. I also was at the Student Leadership Rooted in Rockland event that was hosted by Leadership Rockland in Rockland. We had a couple of our students there, including one of our former students on the panels talking about student leadership. Went to the Oakmont Academic Awards, but quite frankly, not as a board member. I went there to see George and my daughter, both were there getting academic awards. Actually, I was there for my daughter first. George had an opportunity to go spend some time with Sue Ann at Wood Creek High School and go visit the student government class there. Had a meeting with a number of parents, and then I know I canceled a lot of meetings. I want to apologize for that. I had to leave the state very quickly for a close family friend's death. And I missed a bunch of things, including the retirement reception, which I really wanted to be at. So I just wanted to take this time to thank all those employees that have served our district and our students and their families for so long, and now are going to get to enjoy a wonderful retirement. We're going to miss them. We're going to miss all the contributions they made to our district, but we wish them well, long, happy retirement. With that, that's any board reports.
I'd like to say congratulations and thank you to all of the student representatives for your service and commitment. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge the heartbreaking losses our school district has experienced this past 2 weeks, the unexpected passing of 2 beloved alumni students of Antelope High School. The loss of these young lives is not only a personal tragedy for their families, but also a significant loss for our district as a whole. We are committed to providing support to the families during this difficult time. Let us support one another, uplift those who are struggling, and find solace in our shared memories of these remarkable individuals. Antelope High School has counselors and resources that are available to anyone who needs them. In times like these, it's crucial that we come together as a community. I also had the opportunity to visit the Roseville Adult School earlier this week. Very impressed with what I saw there. Our adult school serves as a beacon of opportunity for individuals of all backgrounds and ages who are seeking to expand their knowledge, enhance their skills, and pursue new career paths. I was impressed by the diverse range of programs and courses offered, with everything from English language acquisition and literacy classes to vocational training and college prep courses. This school is equipped to meet the diverse needs and aspirations of our adult learners in our community. Together, let us continue to champion the cause of lifelong learning and provide opportunities for personal and professional growth that will shape the trajectory of countless lives. Thank you.
I was able to attend the retirement reception last week, and I just also want to extend great congratulations to all the teachers. I'm sure none of them are here right now because they're out of here, but I appreciated the anecdotes, which I'm sure were scrubbed a little bit. So I hope they are able to celebrate at their home sites a little bit more with the fun and laughter. And I appreciate their service very much. And I also want to give a shout out to all the students who've been taking AP tests for the last couple of weeks. And I know my daughter describes it as Super Bowl for the teachers because they just feel like they're just super excited that the culmination of all the hard work. So congratulations for getting through all that. And I've spent the bulk of my time since the last meeting meeting with some teachers and really thinking about 6.16, which we'll talk about later.
Right. Congratulations to our student board members again and to our retiring teachers. It was a nice banquet with the ladies. Just seeing all of our very hard-working teachers off into life retirement. My Roseville High School son and his friends love the new library with the big tiger. They say it's sick. Whatever. I think that is good, right? Last couple weeks, I've just been in some parent meetings, parent phone calls. We had our workout Wednesday with the adult transition students again. I should have said this while our John Adams Academy was here, but I did make it out to the John Adams Entrepreneur Fair, and it was just the best. All of the students make things and design things and sell them and set up their business and their store. So it was really great to see. I also have lots of friends with students there, and they have a really great program. And it was fun to be a part of that. I think I also got called away unexpectedly for a week. Jury selection. Yes, long, grueling jury selection. So I have to reschedule with a couple parents, or if there's a few that I haven't gotten back to. Schedule's a little better this week. And just looking forward to graduation coming up.
Our student board members, Selena and Salo.
All right, so I'd like to say everything at Wood Creek has been going really well, especially our spring sports. Multiple lacrosse athletes made first all-league team and second all-league team, and they actually celebrated the end of their season with a boy v girls lacrosse tournament, which was super fun to watch. And our track and field team has also been doing really well. Multiple athletes qualified for D2 finals this week and Master finals next week. And our team also won the CBC League Championships last week. And our dance department is our club of the month, and they're having their annual Dancing with the Stars dance show, and that opens tonight, so that's really exciting. And I'd also like to say, to celebrate the end of the year, our students are really looking forward to our traditional Night on the Quad, which is a fun event where our quad is filled with inflatables, games, food trucks, and a battle of the bands. And different clubs can sell snacks to help fundraise for their own clubs and different charities. So we're all really looking forward to that. And yeah, that wraps up all the highlights for
All right, so with Antelope, we had our junior and senior prom on May 7th. That was just this Saturday. It went really well. We sold almost all of our tickets, and our themes masquerade. It was really fun. Obviously, we've had our AP exams for the past 2 weeks, and it's been stressful. But I have loved seeing the turnout of all the students taking their education to the next level. I truly think AP classes are really preparing me for when I'm headed to UCLA next year. And our boys varsity volleyball team beat Granite Bay on Tuesday, and it was a great game. It was 3-1. It was friendly fire the whole entire game, and that was the semifinals. So now we're going against Wood Creek on Saturday for the section championships, which this is the furthest Antelope has ever gone for boys volleyball. So I'm so impressed. I played volleyball too, so this has been like so cool to see. And if you're free at 4 o'clock, William Jessup this Saturday, that game will be going on. And we had our staff versus seniors basketball game. Staff actually won 58-54. And we had a lot of hype up throughout the week because our math teacher was claiming that he was going to dunk on our 6'6" varsity basketball player. He did not, but they still won. And we have our Powder Puff game next week. It's a little late in the year, but we got rained out the last time. So it's a good way to end off the school year. Also with our Sadie's Hawkins dance, where we will also be having inflatables, food trucks, and our Tahitian dance club perform. And it should be really fun because it's also going to be in the football field. Thank you.
Wonderful. Next up is superintendent reports, communication.
All right, well, there's no communications this evening. And just briefly wanted to, since we didn't get a chance to at our last meeting, just kind of formally recognize the changing of the guard with RSCA and their president. So Jessica Fork did her stint admirably over the last 2 years. And so we wish her well back living the calm, peaceful life, and welcome Natalie Robbins as the new president. And she is fully engaged in her role now. So we welcome and see you here with us. So welcome, Natalie. And then again, the retirement reception, just how much I appreciate the HR team, Brad, Rob, Shannon Blockton, and those involved with that, putting on a nice retirement reception and retiring over 400 plus years of teaching service in one afternoon. It was super impressive, and those teachers are definitely, the impact they've made on our community is definitely going to be missed. And then as you've heard the students talk, just want to kudos to our principals and to their staff. I don't know if there hasn't been a 6-day work week, 10-hour days, with student activities going on rampantly with drama shows, dance shows, football, or got Powder Puff going on. We've got all of our spring sports. Everybody's in playoffs right now. They're driving 2-3 hours to supervise games. There's a lot going on. Not too long ago, we were begging for all of this to happen, and now we're seeing it fully immersed onto our campuses, and really happy about that. And then last but not least, we finally are starting to get some exciting data coming back in, and we're looking forward to sharing a little bit. As we talked about AP exams and everything happening right now as our college and career indicators and indexes now coming to fruition, kind of back into that circuit. And so we're looking forward to having some of those discussions with the board here in the next few meetings. Talk about dual enrollment, AP, IB, and all fun things like that. So.
Anyone else from the cabinet reports?
Just wanted to remind everyone it is Teacher Appreciation Week. We've been celebrating all week and wrapping up tomorrow, but we do celebrate our teachers and our staff all year long, but it's fun to have a specific week for that. AP and IB testing has been mentioned. The retirement reception was amazing, and I did get out to a couple of the plays. I saw Into the Woods and Shrek the Musical, and if you went, you might also call it Fiona the Musical, which was a fun opening. Lots of great things happening, so thank you.
Piggyback on Dr. Moore's comments, I'd just like to take a moment to remind everybody that this is National Teachers Appreciation Week. And whereas we recognize the district's Teachers of the Years at a board meeting in January, and we recently recognized teachers who make a difference at a local AXA event earlier in the week, we currently employ 513 teachers in this district, and each one of them is deserving of our support and our appreciation. Our success as a school district is measured by the achievement and growth of our students, and that means every student. the administrators, the board members, the classified staff, the support services staff, we all play a role, but it's our teachers who make the greatest impact on our students. We recently celebrated the retirement of several teachers, 16 to be exact, and we're in the process of filling 37 vacancies for next year. We post, we screen, we interview, we attend job fairs, and I can tell you the teacher shortage is real. I'm seeing fewer candidates come to our job fairs, fewer young folks entering into the profession right now, especially in areas of math and science, world language, and special education. We're seeing fewer qualified applicants, where we used to sometimes see 100 applicants for an English position. We're maybe seeing a quarter of that at this time. And so we need to be cognizant of that. We offer a great salary and benefit package. We have outstanding modernized schools. We provide training and support to our teachers. But we need to, and we live in an incredible community. People want to live in Roseville, Granite Bay, and Antelope and move to this area because of our schools, and we want to maintain that. So we need to continue to support our teachers, to lift them up, and can't fall into the narrative, some of the false narratives that we've heard, claiming teachers are indoctrinating or grooming our students. Our teachers are the lifeblood of this district. And with that, I simply want to say thank you, teachers, for your hard work, your dedication, and your continued professionalism. Thank you.
Anything, Joe? All right. Our next item is committee reports. For the policy committee, you will see quite a number of items under 6.4. Most of them are revisions to bring us in compliance with changes in laws. There's only one new policy. It is suspension and expulsion due process, specifically for students with disabilities. This is to reflect new guidance from the Department of Education and new laws AB 740 from 2022. So you'll see that shortly, and we'll have another meeting coming up in a few weeks. Any other committee reports? Okay. We'll now get into public comment. I have just a handful of cards here. I think I have 3, so each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. First one is Lori C.
Sex is pretty fun. You're hopeless. Why don't we go porn hunting? Huh? Don't you like porn? She asked, smiling. I answered the truth was that I hadn't seen much porn, but the idea of looking at porn with Alaska had appeal. Have you ever gotten a blowjob? I've just never given one, she answered, her little voice dripping with her seductiveness. It was so brazen, I thought I would explode. I think I want to, she said. And we kissed a little, and then Laura unbuttoned my pants and pulled my boxers down a little and pulled out my penis. And then she wrapped her hand around it and put it in her mouth. Laura and I went back to her room where she did exactly what Alaska told her to do, and I did exactly what Alaska said I would do, which was die 100 little ecstatic deaths. My fists clenched, my body shaking. As my body shakes right here. I have 2 kids in the district, one in high school, one in middle school. I do not understand. Guys, don't act faster and care. Were we all not educated enough without this in our education, K through 12? Did you have this in your education, K through 12? This book is school curriculum. It's not library material, it's curriculum. It shouldn't matter whether it's library material, or curriculum. You are handing it to the children. I cannot understand. It makes me shake. What is next? What will we be exposing to the kids next? How will the board and some of the staff attempt to divide the kids from their parents next? We have bathrooms coming or rooms where kids are going to change their clothes at school. Is that coming? I never dreamt we would be doing this in our district. Don't let it happen.
Our next speaker is Sophia Perez, followed by Kevin Collier.
Hi, my name is Sophia Perez, and I'm a sophomore at Roosevelt High School. The meeting on April 13th was the first RJUHSD board meeting I have ever attended. I came because my friend told me how her and her friends were diminished during the March 23rd meeting by a Proud Boy. I came to support her and her classmates, thinking it wouldn't get as disrespectful as the previous meeting, and even though it wasn't to that extent, there were still grown adults saying racist, homophobic, and transphobic things, even while the students sitting front row were a part of some of those communities. Sadly, these attacks were not the most appalling thing that night. For the next few days, the only thing I could think of was the disrespect to the librarians of our district from the board. At that point, it was already 9:30 p.m., and most of the audience members had left, and I'm guessing most of those watching online had tuned off for the night. For those of you who don't know what happened, the librarians were invited to answer questions about the library system in our schools. And when first coming to the stand, Pete Constant praised them for their wide expanse of education, but then when Miss Dina gave some information that Mr. Constant did not agree with, he interrupted her and proceeded to call her, quote, intellectually dishonest, end quote. And when she asked to retort, he replied no. The librarians came to give information to the board and the public, and instead of letting them do that, Mr. Constant shut them down. Mr. Constant, earlier that meeting, you also brought up the First Amendment and the importance of free speech, but then you took theirs away. So I am wondering, is free speech only viable when it is something that follows your beliefs? Before coming to the meeting, I couldn't even imagine some of the things said that night, so now it is important to start bringing students, the people that this whole institution is based off of, to see what their board and some parents are saying and doing. Thank you.
Next speaker is Kevin Collier.
Hi, I'm Kevin Kalia. I've got an incoming ninth grader who's going to be in May. I want to talk about a couple different topics. First, I want to talk about the landing spot. Since we're on Oakmont campus tonight, I wanted to remind folks that in 2019, this campus lost a member of the LGBTQ community to suicide. And this board, different members at the time, was going to hire a sheriff's chaplain to come and comfort the students as they needed to be comforted. But the students asked for Pastor Casey to come instead. The Wellness Center staff invited Pastor Casey to come, and he answered the call as any caring pastor would. Now, because of the controversy in the community, Pastor Casey is invited to come on campus, and instead students are sent out links to websites to get the resources they need. What I would say is these students, they're small in number, there's a great need. There's a reason why the Wellness Centers asked Pastor Casey and the landing spot to come on campus in the first place. It's because these students were missing class, struggling with depression, and they need real life resources, not links to websites. So what the district's doing is not enough to support these students, and I'd ask that you do more. Secondly, I want to talk about books. I appreciate the last commenter speaking about the things that happened at the last board meeting. And I understand there's some sensitivity to the idea that books are being banned. The thing I would say is let's not ban any books. Some of what is happening, but I've heard that on some of our school campuses, the principals have taken books that were paid for from the shelves so that they're not available to you, whatever that means. Books like The Handmaid's Tale, the graphic novel, are not on the shelves even though we paid for them. And it's just a shadow ban. And what I'd say most importantly is it won't work. So To the extent that any book's banned and there's a student in this district that wants to read it, can't find it in the library, they should reach out to me. I'll send them a free copy and they can distribute it to other students. I'm hoping that whatever books you pull out of our libraries will be more widely distributed. Hoping that students on our campuses will start a club to read the books that you ban, because they should be reading exactly the things that you don't want them to read. And as far as I'm concerned, my kids could read any book. I'll be happy if they're reading books instead of looking at their phones. And so in my last 15 seconds, I'll just say we should trust the teachers for all things. I think we're going to talk about an item later. It's about one class, one school, one grade, and we're not even trusting our teachers enough to study that issue and try a pilot program without board oversight. It's big government, and we should trust the teachers.
All right. Our next item is our RSEA report. Welcome. What's your name? Signed up for item 6.15, so we're not at that yet. Well, you can come up. You didn't sign up for that, but come on up.
Just want to say that I'm actually kind of sad that I'm going to bring some tough subject because it's been so happy up until I want to let you know that I think you're doing a great job. And I also want to comment on the fact that everyone wants to trust teachers. Just want to remind you or let you know that in 2019, there was a teacher arrested every single day in the United States for abusing their students sexually. So it's not, something that we should openly trust anybody, any teacher, because they are teachers. We should always be conscious about the dangers that our children can experience at school too. In any case, I'm here to talk about and this doesn't apply to you. I don't assume that you wrote the policies, all the policies that are distributed to the parents. I don't have kids in this district, but they will be coming on later on. I'm going to address a particular part of Title IX. It is on Section 3, I believe. And it says, examples of the types of conduct which are prohibited in the district and which may constitute gender-based harassment include, but are not limited to, refusing to address a student by a name and the pronouns consistent with his or her gender identity, and that there will be discipline if they commit this type of harassment. So I ask you, does this actually show diversity and inclusivity in the policy, or does it violate some students' constitutional First and 14th Amendment rights, which I believe that it does. In 1969, Tinker versus Des Moines, the Supreme Court ruled on students' First Amendment rights in schools. The court's majority opinion said, unquote, in our system, state-operated schools may not be enclaves of totalitarianism. School officials do not possess absolute authority over their students. Students are possessed of fundamental rights, which the state must respect, just as they themselves must respect their obligations to the state. In our system, students may not be regarded as closed-circuit recipients of only that which the state chooses to communicate. They may not be confined to the expression of those sentiments that are officially approved. In the absence of specific showing of constitutionally valid reasons to regulate their speech, students are entitled.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
To freedom of expression of their views. So I just wanted to have you.
Oh, your time is up. Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay, Natalie, you're back.
Not a new face, I guess, but I am a newer face for the RCA. I just hope it doesn't age my face in the next 2 years. Jessica's term ended as of May 1st, so I've been officially stepped in. Good so far. Keep it that way. I know, right? Now, I will say Jessica was a little disappointed that you did cancel her last meeting. So she did send me a 7-page form to read to you. I'm totally joking. I'm not going to do a 7-page. Okay. First off, I want to say thank you for, I had the opportunity to attend the first annual GSA Summit held at Oakmont High School. People were there. I want to give some shout outs to people who actually helped MC it and host it for us. Mel Dobson and Kelly Richardson, Richmond Moore, Denise Burns, and Mr. Becker himself. It was a fantastic experience. I was also invited to kind of build energy, I should say. I have a lot of it. I apologize for that. But I had a chance to sit at the very end with students and actually talk to them here. It was the most exciting thing to see in their face. They all said they were very nervous coming in, didn't know what to expect. And at the end of it, they were literally giggling, laughing, running around, sharing their Instagrams, TikToks, whatever it was they do to get their contacts. And I listened to students literally said, I've never been so seen. So I want to say thank you, and we're here to continue this, and I'm looking forward to moving forward with that. So I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Wow, it has been a busy year. We've been dealing with many things from still COVID to powering through credit recovery and developing co-teaching models, implementing dual enrollment, and creating new courses in CTEs, and learning the new LMS systems such as Canvas, which is greatly entertaining. A lot of like ups and downs. That's all right. Implementing what we've heard from the students with all the spring sports, with the AP testings, the IB, the study sessions, field trips, and the CASP testing, which is monumental. Performance arts, performances and art shows, and students showing their art of procrastination, and also the finals and graduation. It's been a lot. We're exhausted, but we are in it for the long haul. I love working in this district because I have peers who I really love working alongside and building these relationships. I'm very proud to work with them. I'm very proud of these next 2 years to represent them. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I know many of you. I mean, John Becker hired me. Thank you. We're going to have some new faces coming in. And I want to say to the board, thank you so much. It's been really great seeing your faces on campus. I hope it continues. I hope you can have those relationships with teachers. They love to come talk to them. They're really nervous, but once you open them up, they'll never stop. So thank you for your time. I'm looking forward again.
Wait, before you go. I thought you had a lot of energy here. And then I thought, I came and visited you at school and thought you had a lot of energy there. Then I saw you actually in action. This woman has so much energy. And not just the energy, the way you commanded the crowd, got them engaged. It's pretty impressive. So thank you for that. And then I want you to tell Jessica, I'm going to text her anyway, but tell her she always has an option at the mic. It's just whether I give her unlimited time, 3 minutes or a minute and a half. But she's always welcome to come. So looking forward to seeing you over the summer.
Appreciate it. Thank
Thanks. All right. So now on the consent agenda, we have one that we're going to pull. We have a board member request to pull item 6.16. But I also have public comment cards on 2. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the public comment on these 2 items. And if anybody on the board thinks that those items should be pulled for further discussion, we'll do that. I want to make sure that the members of the public have an opportunity to speak on these. The first is for 6.11, Christina. And then after that, it'll be 6.15, which will be Jimenez. We'll get a chance to come up for that. So you each get 3 minutes, and then we'll go from there. Now we can't see you.
So this agenda item is to approve the description of Director of Student Services. And it looks like it's coming from a grant that the district was just approved for, the STOP grant. And so I emailed you guys, and I've actually emailed the administration asking questions because the grant is only meant for 36 months, but this position, the wording, it looks like it's meant for in perpetuity. So I'm just asking that you guys consider it a little bit longer. The start date of the grant is until October 1st, so why does it need to necessarily be approved tonight? And just some of the information into it just seems very vague. I don't know if it's intentional or because this is a new position. I'm just requesting that you guys take some more time and review it tonight and put it on the agenda next time to approve, if that's the direction. So,
You're speaking on 6.15, I believe. Approval of course reviews.
Yeah, so I just have a general comment. I was reading the agenda and the board approves all curriculum as well as the resources and textbooks. And at least in my current district, all those resources that are available to the children are very one-sided. As I see them, they are not conservative in nature. And I believe that in an educational institution, there should be a well-rounded exchange of ideas from all sides so that children can create informed critical thinking skills and have a more well-rounded, holistic view of any viewpoint. So I was wondering if you have considered adding more conservative resources. You know, for instance, I would recommend the epochtimes.com or the Wall Street Journal or the Hill, which is actually very rounded both sides of the equation, things like that. So I just wanted to, bring it out there and see if you consider resources.
Thank you. Right, so on the consent calendar, we have a request to pull item 6.16. Would anyone like to pull any? So we're going to pull item 6.11 and 6.16. Anything else? Okay, I'm looking for a motion on the remainder of the consent calendar.
The remaining items on the consent calendar.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yes. Yes. Advisory votes. 2 thumbs up. All right. So that passes 4-0. We're now going to go in order, so we'll just going to go ahead and take these items from the consent agenda, action items. So we'll start with 6.11. Marla, since you pulled that, do you have specific questions? Or Brad?
Well, who is it? Oh, it's okay. April. Can you address the questions about the grant?
We were actually planning to have this position either way because it is a significant need for our district to help grow the student services department. And we were really pleased to have grant funding through the STOP grant for 3 years of the position. In addition, we've already identified an additional 2 years of funding for it from the Learning Recovery grant. So we already have earmarked 5 years. And when we look at that length of time, we don't look at it as a temporary position. And again, it's a need that we had found anyway, but we love to be creative with resources to stretch them as much as possible. And so we would continue looking for opportunities to extend it with grants if that's possible, or if we needed to absorb it, but we have 5 years to make those determinations. So that was our plan.
The descriptions were vague. What position? Can you tell me if you can get a better overview of what you envision that position to be? Or you're not ready for it, or is that John?
So job descriptions are never meant to be every specific responsibility of a staff member has. They're more general in nature in terms of the general responsibilities as essential functions that they are responsible for. And in this particular case, much of it is aligned with the work that our executive director currently does in terms of transfers, expulsions, suspensions, as well as district safety. We're looking at providing better oversight in some of the other programs, including the wellness centers, for example. And so we're looking at a role as we've gone from having 2 high schools to 4 high schools to 6 comprehensive high schools plus an education program. And we have stayed relatively the same in terms of the person who's responsible for the oversight of the student the student services responsibilities for the district. And so we've reached a point now where we believe we need to add a second person to assist with that. And that I think that the job description, which was vetted through cabinet, it was a joint effort between Dr. Dobson as well as Rob Hasty and other cabinet members in terms of looking at that and does it capture the essential functions of that position. Not every single responsibility, but the essential functions. We think it does a good job of doing that.
Any other questions, student board members, any questions? No questions? Then do we have a motion on the item?
A motion to approve.
Motion to approve, do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, so that's 4-0 with 1 absent. We'll now move into item 6.16. April, do you want to start with anything, or do you want questions from the board first?
I think we'd like to do the questions, and then we do have Principal Sloan and Teacher Bernadette Cranmer here to help answer the questions from the school.
I appreciate that. Only because I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and speaking with Mr. Sloan and Mr. Cranmer. And
Let's just see if anyone has some questions.
Okay.
And then we'll, any
yes,
questions? Okay.
I don't have questions.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I've also attended, they offered a parent info night. I spoke with Dr. Moore and Dr. Mr. Becker, speaking to additional teachers, and I've been searching studies and data to really try to understand the pros and cons of combining COSI, C11, and IB. And the reason why I'm taking all this time is I just feel a lot of personal responsibility of representing Bernadette. And I know this potentially could be it's a big change for some people. And I love the idea of providing an opportunity for students who have never tried an IB AP course. I'm all about stretching people academically, and that's a vision I can get behind. I did have a big concern from day one, and that was whether we were putting the IB and the struggling students at a disadvantage together, co-seating. And I found there was very little information on co-seating online, and so I shifted over to the idea of detracting. And Ms. Cranmer helped me a bit with sending the information, and I spoke with John quite a bit because I'm learning you can find success stories and cautionary tales about detracting, and it's really hard to find good data. I was able to find data to support either side. Ms. Cranmer was able to give me a good case study of a school in New York that made me feel better about the fact that their high achieving students were caused no harm by combining, well, they detract and added IBs. It's a little different than what we were doing. But it reassured me. I think I'm finding more information about math being more challenging to students, not English. Speaking with Mr. Becker, it was clear that I could chase down many rabbit trails of studies, but in the end, with this type of co-seating, it seems to be entirely dependent on the teacher, with his words. And I feel like, among other things, the board sets vision, approves curriculum, and holds the superintendent accountable. With that accountability, for me personally, I believe that it means if he's able to support the program and believes in the co-seating, it has merit and resources to work, that I will get behind him. But I also have concerns, and most of them I think can be addressed by how this pilot being measured for success, and that's where I've spoken with Mr. Sloan. And I think he's ready to have a conversation about updating some of the slides, or at least one of the measurements and how we have honest assessments of accountability. And I would encourage parents to speak up if this is approved. If they have concerns, we need to give Granite Bay a chance to address them. Silence is not going to improve our schools. And I do want to share one thing that kind of surprised me, that I think we also need to make sure that our community is aware is, this weekend I asked the Granite Bay counselor how the transfer of IB courses compared to AP and DE at Sierra College, in California state schools and UC. And I learned that the IB English language and lit is equivalent to 3 credits at Sierra College under the humanities section, not the English section, where our DE and AP Lang and Lit are equivalent to their language section. So I don't want our families to assume that when they're taking this IB class, they're getting English credit at Sierra College. It surprised me, but I think we just need to make sure we're setting the appropriate expectations. It did make me wonder what the institutions, why they don't allow similar credit, same course. Maybe Ms. Crammer can speak to that, but I know she doesn't have any control over what the institutions think. And I appreciate, Mr. Becker, that you said that we're going to have some conversations about just education and getting back to what's important. I wish we had it flipped. I wish we had the conversation first and then we did this, but thank you. So that's my thought process. And everything I went through was lots of students. So thanks for listening.
Thanks. I'll just add some editorial comments from a parental perspective, because I went through sort of a frustrating time with my daughter when the school decided to go teach AP calculus, AP pre-calculus, and not honors or not AP regular calculus. My daughter was in that course and got the wrong book and all kinds of confusion, and a very frustrating experience for her and for us. So I appreciate that this is going through a pilot process. I think that it's important as we do these things to go through a pilot and to see how things work, check back in with the board, check in with the parents, check in with the students, and find out how we can serve all the students so that we don't have those frustrations that I know our family and several families in that class experience. So overall, I'm supportive of pilot programs. Get out there, keep innovating and finding better ways to serve our students in the best way possible. But I think you bring up some valid issues. Do you have specific questions you want them to address?
The biggest issue was I think it's slide 27, it's how we can measure success. So I don't know if there's overall questions or if we can just address that specific.
Why don't we start with that, and then if anyone else has questions. We do have a couple of members of the public, but I want to get our questions on first.
Board, Principal Sloan. And want to start jumping into slide 27 and progress monitoring. Okay. So kind of looking back at what the slide says, there's some details on it, but it's not obviously super clear or a lot of detail. So some additional things that we've been kind of thinking about and talking about. A lot of this is data we would look at regardless of the course, but specifically since we're looking at a pilot, we would take a closer look and make more comparisons to the grade level than we would just look at it generally. One of the areas to always look at in a course would be DNF rates and comparing that to kind of historical norms, looking are students being less successful in any way than they would have been before. IB passing totals, it'd be a while before we'd have that data, but looking at is the average, is the score distribution affected in any kind of negative way? Another thing we've discussed was parents and student surveys at each quarter. The way our schedule works is a block schedule. That would give 2 opportunities for each student and parent that's involved in it, at the midpoint and again at the end, to kind of address questions. We have not written questions at this point, just the idea that we work with district staff to come up with that. We always look at CAS scores every year, so that would be something we continue to monitor. And one thing I also kind of looked at was there was a group of students who originally signed up for the course prior to any information related to co-seating, kind of tracking their particular progress. Are these students as successful as the historical norm would be for students that signed up, as well as students specifically in the diploma program, which is, once again, a smaller subset, because if they were not successful, then that would obviously harm Granite Bay's IB diploma program. And Ms. Cranmer here is the IB coordinator, as well as an English teacher who would be teaching the subject. And one thing we've talked about many times is it would be crazy for us to continue with something that actually harms our IB program or want to be less successful in the diploma. So I would lead the charge with anyone if this was not successful to not continue something. Certainly we, as I agree with Pete, trying things and seeing what we can do to do better. But obviously, if it's not doing better, there would be no reason to continue. And obviously update you guys, but I think we would be the ones to be telling you, hey, this has to change. So that's just some updates on some progress monitoring if you have some other thoughts or questions.
Okay, so maybe I didn't have questions, but one thing we didn't speak about is also, while confidential, also looking at individual teachers, because I think it was made clear by John that this is the success is based on teacher, because it's challenging to teach to a wide range of there's talent that you have to have. And I know your experience, everyone assures me that you have a great team in place, but what happens
yeah,
you know,
a lot of data is
so,
kind of looked
yeah.
at in that way. When we're looking at grade data, we're looking at AP data. Where are we seeing success, lack of success? Who needs support? What assignment changes sometimes in staffing in terms of who's stronger in a particular area? Those things are generally looked at. Obviously, we would make that a part of this pilot.
And one thing we didn't touch on is students with disabilities. I'm wondering how we, again, you probably already have some stopgaps to make sure that they're.
Yep. So I'll talk about special ed second. First, I want to follow up what you were just talking about. So it is true with a lot of that research that you and I were exchanging back and forth. It talks about the fact that co-seating or detracking, whatever term you want to use, is successful when there's a system, when there's a pedagogy that is shared by all the teachers. And 9 of the teachers in the English department have already been trained in IB, specifically with this mandate in place that we have a shared understanding of what's important and a shared understanding of the college and career indicators and what's expected by IB to keep that high level of rigor. And so we've already been working closely together this year, and actually even before this, our English 9 and our English 10 PLTs are also revising, and they've been trained, and they're working to make sure that our students are prepared for both AP and IB classes when they transition from that sophomore year to junior year. So that's the first part. For the special ed part, so IB's emphasis is on differentiating for all students. IB absolutely believes that this is a curriculum for all students, not just for the students who are doing 7 IB classes who are taking all these APs and everything else. And remember, it's a worldwide curriculum. And unfortunately, when we first introduced it to Granite Bay High School, it was introduced as a curriculum that was only for the elite. And there were only 36 students in the entire school that did IB. Now we have 300 that are doing IB because it is supposed to be something that they're all have access to. In addition, IB requires that we have policies in place specifically for inclusion and for differentiation, which we do have, and we've worked with Craig to make sure that we're in line with district requirements and also with IB's requirements.
How long is this pilot?
We're looking at the junior year right now. So obviously we would schedule people in the fall and the spring. Plan would be, if it's successful, it would continue to the senior year with 12 and HL2, and then obviously wrap around and continue with the next set of juniors. So as data will obviously not have final grade data or test data right away, but each quarter with a survey with some Ds and Fs that can be compared, we could do reports through board updates, potentially even come before the board again if needed.
Really, it has to be 2 years to see how the seniors test.
Yeah, we wouldn't
At
see
least
IB
at
pass
minimum.
rates for 2 years, but we would have other data along the way.
We do have their transcripts and their normal grades for the class that we regularly check.
have a specific pilot timeline on this, or is it?
I would assume that we'd be looking at this year. That's our initial pilot, but I don't think we would be done with the pilot. It's 2 years to see that impact.
We were suggesting it as a 2-year, knowing that we would discontinue at any time if it wasn't successful. But that we would, update the board probably through Friday update, sorts of progress points along the way. And the anticipation would be about a year and a half. Bring it forward to see if it was going to continue. And we would have had 3 full semesters of data and implementation, and we would need to check in before. But then right around that time, we would be needing to set the plans for the following year. So that was kind of the original thinking.
I want to make sure that we have clear expectations and that when we do a pilot, there has to be affirmative action by the board to make it permanent. We just don't run a pilot and keep piloting it because then it's no longer a pilot. So what I'm hearing is 2 years with the review and a year and a half. Progress reports along the way, but full review in a year and a half to see if that's something we want to continue and make permanent, or if it's something we want to say, okay, we tried. Is that correct?
And it is wonderful, but I should be fully transparent in that IB scores do not come out until July after the students graduate. So we won't know until July after their senior year what their scores are. We will know, however, all those other things that we talked about, all the perception data, and we'll have all the transcript data.
So we should know also a lot of the internal assessment data that we can inside compare to prior years. This wouldn't be the external exams that are graded by IB.
So we'll know if this is failure and this is success. We'll know where we are on the spectrum. We may not have definitive, 99.6, but we're going to know we're in this sort of area.
Yep.
Okay. I just think that's important so that we maintain our responsibility.
Although it bothers me that we would approve something without having those final test scores, right? That's the culmination to see that this work, that your high achieving IB students let's say 20%, you always get 7s, to not, but 3 years would kind of commit you to the third year.
In like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I guess that seems kind of a long pilot for a pilot. So that's why I was suggesting we come back and went a year and a half. Now at that time, you don't have to make it permanent. You could extend the pilot for an additional year or 2.5 years at that point as well. It just felt a little bit long if we're actually following. That was my feeling.
Any questions first? Let's hear from the public real quick, so then we can all digest a bit, and then if we have any more questions.
Thank you.
I have 2 members of the public that have asked to speak on this. First is Melissa Getzow, and second is Jenny. So you here?
Thank you. Good evening. I just want to start by saying that I have, this fall, I'll have a junior and a sophomore, so they will both be directly affected by the restructuring of the English program. I would like to quote from the IB learner profile that I read on our school website. Quote, "The aim of all IB programs is to develop internationally minded people who, recognizing their common humanity and shared guardianship of the planet, help to create a better and more peaceful world," unquote. Restructuring the junior English class to co-seat CP11 with IB is an innovative and excellent idea. It allows all students, regardless of where they see themselves academically, to benefit from a more organic and updated learning environment. If there is a better way to educate our students, why not make it available to all? Also included in the IB learner profile are the following 10 attributes valued by IB World Schools: inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk takers, balanced, reflective. I believe that all students have these qualities to some degree, and the key is to provide the rich learning environment to allow those attributes to further develop. Students who might not have seen themselves as, quote, IB material can now be exposed to a very 21st century approach to learning. I hope the board will see this restructuring as the positive change that it is. I thank our teachers and administrators for their forward and inclusive thinking, and while I think it will require more work on their part to navigate a dual grading system, so many more students will benefit. Sometimes all it takes is unlocking a door so that a student can walk through. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jenna.
Familiar faces here. So I'm not as prepared as Michelle was, but I wanted to come and just say that my daughter, I live here in the district, and my daughter is the last of 6 in our family to go through Granite Bay, so we've been here a long time. And she is going to be a junior next year, so this directly impacts her as well. And I want to appreciate Mr. Sloan. I want to appreciate everybody over there who's been working so hard on this, and for you all, Marla, I really appreciate your questions. I think that, and Dr. Moore, these are all issues that we all think about, but I'm so excited about this program. When I went to the night where they rolled it out for the parents to ask questions, and all these questions were asked, and they were prepared, and they had done the research, and they had gone to schools where they had done this. And I went home and told my daughter about it because she signed up for AP Lang, and I proctored the AP Lang exam, and there were, I think, just under 200 kids in there, and I'm like, maybe you want to try this instead. She's like, I don't know, but having that option is amazing. And not only is it an amazing option for lots of kids who didn't think themselves maybe IB students, but it's an option for kids who thought themselves IB students but couldn't fit it in their schedule. One of the really good things that I heard at the parent night was that this opens up the IB class for lots more IB thinking kids who know they are, because we're in this block schedule, and this allows you, if you couldn't take it in this period, you couldn't take it. And now there's more options to take it. And I really appreciate that as well. I love that it's a pilot program. I love that we're at the forefront of education. I think that I talked to some of my teacher friends, and they're excited about the idea of it. Teachers not in the school. And I think it's super cool that we're opening that up. And I really appreciate the education all my kids and my nieces and nephews have gotten at Granite Bay in the English department. So I do have a lot of faith in our teachers and their ability to handle the program. And I also have a lot of confidence in my daughter, who has no fear to come to me and say, what's working for me, and talk to me about that. So yeah, I cheerlead it, I applaud it, I am here for questions, and I hope we get the answers you all are looking for, but it has 100% my approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, you got your card in just in time. Yep, Julie. I didn't get a card from you, but I'll just call you. Yeah, you can go to the next.
Thank you for hearing my comments. My name is Julie Hansen, and I have a current sophomore at Granite Bay High School. So she would be directly impacted by this curriculum proposal. I will say that Mrs. Cranmer is her current honors English teacher, and I've been extremely grateful for her leadership and her compassion as a teacher and her awareness of the children in her class. I will say she's one of the only high school teachers I've ever received a personal email from directly concerning my child and something that she wanted to discuss. It followed up with a phone call. She's extremely aware of the students that she is surrounded with, and I have the utmost respect for her and trust in her. So I was very interested. As well, I have a daughter with a 4.6 GPA who's very involved in the AP and the academia that is offered and available. And so when I heard about this curriculum change, of course, my interest was piqued. I wanted to make sure the standards were going to be observed that we would like to see preserved. So I was able to attend the parent information meetings, which I was extremely satisfied with. I think the amount of time that has gone into this is extremely impressive and adequate. And I will say that I was interested to learn the COFAX information that was gathered from their implementation of this, as well as Newberry Park in Southern California. And I have friends at both and reached out to both. As a parent, I wanted to do my due diligence and find out on the user end how this was going. And I was really pleased to hear that it was going well. I think there's a concern that maybe amongst some parents that there might not be the rigor if other individuals are included. And I want to speak for as a parent with a child who does find that rigor very motivating in the high school environment, that I feel like this would be an opportunity for many to grow, and for the students who commonly take these kinds of classes to be able to grow as well, and additionally. And so I'm really thrilled with it. I hope that this is something that passes, that is given the opportunity to succeed. I, again, have the utmost trust in Mrs. Cranmer and all of the time that has gone into this. And so as a parent of an incoming junior who will be directly impacted by this, I give it an enthusiastic yes. And I just wanted to share that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, I filled one out for you. Come on up.
My name is Karen Combest, and I'm the proud parent of a soon-to-be 2023 graduate, and I also have a 2020 grad. And I have stood up here many times and said more AP, more IB classes. And so, you know, I'm in full support of that. I have a couple of comments from my own children's experience with IB. I shared some of that with the board members already, so I won't repeat myself. I was a little unclear, and I haven't paid attention because, quite frankly, Granite Bay isn't on my radar. But I wasn't sure if the pilot was like just a couple of classes, or if it was the whole English department was making the shift, and that in of itself is the pilot, which would just be concerning to me because pilots are usually 1 or 2 classes, not an entire shift in curriculum or strategy. But I guess I didn't get the answer to that question. I didn't look very deeply at the slides. I would say, though, knowing, and my children have taken AP and IB classes, the curriculum is substantially different than a CP class. It's in by nature supposed to be different. And there are many, many good things about it, but it is different. And so I'm not hearing a lot from the CP parents. And if it is a pilot, I would just hope that you give the opportunity for them to opt in or opt out, both the CP students as well as the IB students, because I think that would be a decision. And I know there was a parent meeting, but I don't believe that all parents in the Granite Bay High School District know that this is happening, even though they were invited to participate. So I would just be cautious about if this is for all the students, that there is full awareness that this is going to change for them next year. Because obviously the high achievers, I think, have one perspective, but I would wonder what a student who struggles would feel about being in this pilot if they didn't have a choice to be in the pilot or not. Test data, obviously you already talked about that. It is a $120 test that should be considered if the district perhaps is going to pick that up for some parents who can't pay for that. Yeah, I think that those were my comments, but fundamentally more AP and IB is good, but if I were a parent of a CP student, I would want an option. I would want an option to have the regular curriculum because it is substantially different from my own experience with my children. Thanks.
Okay, I don't have any more comment cards. Back to the board. Comments, concerns, corrections?
Whether we could just do this in 2 classes, and I think I heard that was a no.
We talked it through. We explored that when the question came up, but it would actually take away a lot of benefits, as Ms. Cranmer was mentioning, teachers have been trained and they're working together as a team, and they want to just do this together. So we're looking at the pilot being more in time than in scope, because this would affect CP and IB classes. They would still, the school would still continue to have the option of advanced placement and dual enrollment. So it would not affect those. So not every class in 11th grade would be affected, but it would affect CP. And just a note, because there were some comments made, this is a different IB course than Oakmont provides for English. They graduate, that's a different course. So it's
And Greg and I spoke about making sure our community is aware of this. I think I didn't count. We had about 25, 30 people at the parent info night ish. The Q&A was probably almost an hour and a half. It was extensive. I don't know, at least an hour. We had a lot of questions, and there were concerns coming in, and I think the teachers did a really good job addressing all of those concerns to the people in the room that spoke up. And in the end, everyone kind of gave a big thumbs up. But because there were so many questions, I think we will have a challenge just as we roll it out with more people having questions. So I think I think Greg, you said you plan on, if this passes, doing another info night in May. I have to do some more, probably more than one, but I think that's going to be part of the pilot is finding out who's happy about it and who's not, and understanding if that can be worked out.
I find this pilot pretty interesting because I'm not really familiar with co-seating. But based on my experience at Antelope, I have a lot of CP friends in English who wish that they had taken AP Lang or AP Lit. And having this option of co-seating and being able to move up in those first 20 days, I think opens a lot of opportunities for kids to try a higher level of education. And this could be like their first step into taking a different AP class, a different IB class, getting them familiar. And I do agree, it has a lot to do with the teacher. A lot of my AP teachers, that's what's kept me going with the AP program. So I think I love AP, I love IB. It's like looking through my transfer credits today, a transfer through high school or through college, I'm skipping out on like 5 GE classes already. So I think it's a great opportunity for all students.
I'll have something to add. So I personally am in CP English, but I do wish I took AP Lang. But I feel like I was always intimidated by the AP Lang or AP Lit classes. So the co-seating would definitely help me like get a feel of what the classes look like and would probably allow me to move up. So I agree with what Vilana said. Thank you.
Any other board comments or questions?
The very first part of your question that you just asked. Did you ask? When I was first told about this, I asked, instead of the full 9 sections of English at Bay, if it could be done with or just a smaller subset, because of the concerns of actually there might be some CP11 kids that they don't want to, but they won't have a choice. But that's part of the pilot in addressing those concerns. Pivoting or that's their job. Figure out how to make it right. So we need to settle on
So
funding.
I think we need to have a motion on what is presented and give some direction.
Just suggest to clarify, because of the way we build master's, my suggestion is that we call it a 2-year pilot, and it will be brought back to the board after the 3rd semester, so in the spring, probably early in the spring term.
But just to be clear, it wouldn't be a 3-semester pilot because that fourth quarter would be the fourth semester would be scheduled and kids would be in it, but we would come back for continuing discussion. That would be the recommendation.
Okay.
At that point, we would have 3 semesters. We potentially would approve the pilot without knowing what the scores were. Or we could choose to extend, or we would choose to extend.
But either way, it would come back for continuing.
Okay, so we're saying it's going to come back after 3 semesters to discuss.
Try craft a motion on that? Assistant?
I would make a motion to amend slide 27 for everything that Greg said that we had for additional measures.
We don't, we can't
All
change
right,
our PowerPoint, but
all right.
we want to go with their recommendations. So we would want to make a motion to, I'll state it, like, I'll just make a motion to approve the pilot as presented for a 2-year period with periodic updates to the board as to the progress. Review by the board approximately 18 months or 3 semesters of implementation. That's motion.
With the additional measurements that we're going to measure the progress.
Yes. So they will do that as part of the correction.
Just want that in writing.
So we'll incorporate that as part of the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and discussion, or a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
Backtrack and echo what one of the parents said about the IB $130 fee, about in the future possibly absorbing that for the Granite-based students, because I know if that was something at Antelope, I know a lot of students wouldn't be taking the test because of that price.
I think that's something that the administration could consider and bring back in the future. Tim, did you have a question on the motion? No? Okay. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a vote. We're going to start with the student board members. 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That passes 4-0 with 1 member absent. All right. And we are now going to get into our action items. We're going to go into item 8.1, which is public disclosure of the 23-24 CSEA settlement agreement and ratification of the agreement. Joe?
Yes, thank you. So the purpose of this item is to ratify the 2023-24 CSEA settlement agreement that was reached and approved by their members on April 17th. This is also an exciting development because it's the first time we've been able to reach an agreement with CSE before the start of the fiscal year. We were able to do that with RSCA last year, but we didn't have time to get it done with CSEA last year. So we're excited to have that agreement at the time. And that's it. We're looking for the recommendation is to ratify the agreement as well as authorize the execution of the disclosures that go over the different financial commitments.
We have any questions on this item first? Seeing none, any comments? I'll just comment pretty much what I say every time we do this. I'm just happy that we have such a productive labor negotiation process. We have cooperative parties on both sides who truly work to meet the interests that are in the best interest of everyone in our organization. We're very successful in that. And I'm extremely happy that we are getting yet another one that has no retros, getting it done early. So just have a few more goals to hit, multi-year contracts with them in the future, but we're really excited that we have this done early. Any other comments? With that, I'll ask for a motion. Motion and a second. Board members, 2 thumbs up. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So that's going to pass. Was that an aye? All right. So that's going to pass on a 4-0 vote. We're now going to move on to item 8.2. New district office building, negative declaration, mitigated negative declaration. Joe, again?
Yep. So this is another step in the process of starting construction on the new district office and boardroom that we're hoping to break ground this coming June. So this process involves looking at the environmental impacts of the project. And so with that in mind, we hired PlaceWorks as an outside entity, which helped prepare the report you see attached, as well as the mitigated negative declaration. So essentially, they were able to review the project, make recommendations, and at the end of the day, that the project will not have any significant impacts on the environment. And so with that in mind, the district is recommending that the board approve the new district office project mitigated negative declaration and delegate authority to staff to execute the notice of determination, which would go to Placer County and the state clearinghouse. And I would also like to mention that this is just another step that we plan to bring an updated progress, hopefully at the next board meeting, where we're going to have updated lease-back agreement, some final designs and costs of the project before we officially get final approval from it.
Just sort of an editorial note, this is good news. It's always happy when you get negative declaration or get declaration on the relevant project. Any questions from our student board members? Regular board members? I have a motion. Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Student board members? Thumbs up. Regular board, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. That passes 4-0, 1 absent. All right, down to our last few items here. 8.3, approval of core textbooks.
So we saw this on April 13th at our meeting as a first read. They've been on display since, and we are bringing them forward for approval.
Have any questions? Anyone, including student board members? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Approve.
Motion approved. We have a second. We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Favor signify by saying aye. It's 4-0, 1 absent. Now on to item 8.4, approval of new courses, 2 new courses here. Outdoor Adventure 2 course and Mind Matters 1 Intro and Mental and Behavioral Health. Station on this?
No, you just approved the textbook for one of them, and we're ready to approve. And just a note, thank you. Earlier, you approved on consent a litany of courses that just went through. And so we're bringing here as action items that have also gone through that process.
Questions?
I'm just super jealous. Yeah.
I saw the ice fishing. I thought maybe any questions from our student board members? I have a motion. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion on that motion? Student board members, thumbs up. All right. Regular board, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That passes 4-0. Now I'm going to go down to informational items. Item 9.1 is core textbooks. We have a list of them: human geography, government, comparative government, economics, Spanish language and culture, and biology. Any education?
And the sports medicine and apparel. So these will be on display until the next two. It will wait 2 board meetings for June 8th. We plan to bring these back for potential action, but they will be on display at their respective schools. Note that the bottom 2 courses, sports medicine, apparel design, are only at our alternative schools. So they
Any questions? Comments? Okay, that was information only. Now, really getting down to the bottom. 9.2, any staff comments? Anything addressed already? All right, pending agenda items, we have a list in your docs here of a number of meetings coming up. Members of the public, we've sort of extended our pending agenda items. You'll see now we have stuff all the way out to December. So let's put it up. Our last and final item is a motion to adjourn. Up.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, we have a second. Some board members, ready to go? All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, that passes 4-0-1. Thank you all very much. We finished early tonight. Isn't that nice? 8:18.